Hey everybody, uh, here we are. My client Amber Guzman is here to share her experience about our private retreat in California and Fort Ross, who traveled to California to stay with me for several days over the weekend in Fort Ross, California, and do a really, really deep work, experiential work that I offer. So Amber is here to share her experience, and before we start, I just want to mention that Amber Guzman is a breathwork practitioner herself, and she has done enormous amount of work on herself already. So it was a pleasure and honor to work with you, Amber, and thank you so much for your trust and your willingness to dive so deep. And I want to welcome you here. So before we go into details about the retreat itself, Amber, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your story? Like, what is the background of your story that attracted you to do this deep work?
Yeah, well, first it was amazing. And I had known for the last few years since I met you that there was some deep work that you were going to be able to help me unlock. And with as much work as I've done, subconsciously, it took that long because I still had, fear of going there. Um, so I've done 15 plus years of personal development in so many different modalities, and it's my life. All consuming. My life is about personal development. It's about rewiring the patterns. It's about consciously choosing more effective experiences in my life. And I really only like to share space with other individuals that are doing that type of work for real soulful friendships, connections. And I experienced that as soon as I met you, that you were someone that was going to be able to fulfill that type of space. So leading up to the retreat with you, I felt I had so much going on in my life, and I felt obstacles coming up and dates not necessarily working out the best, and so many things that I had on my list. And I knew, okay, this is going to be big because I feel resistance. I feel things attempting to stir me from doing this. And I guess really to explain why I went is, out of all of the work that I've done, the areas that I've had the most challenge have been in relationships, have been around my sexuality, have been around my femininity, where I've come out much more masculine and responsible. And I've wanted to work with this area. And it's also taboo. And it's also, the unknown of what's going to come out of me, the unknown of like what we're actually going to be doing here in this session. And also allowing myself to go there, to express. And so I've been wanting someone to do this work with for such a long time. And finally, when we got there, first, Fort Ross, it is really a magical, quiet, small town, crisp, clean air, crisp, clean vibration. It was really a beautiful place. To the energy of the ocean, the beautiful succulent fields, and the crashing waves on the rocks. It was truly a magical place. And then the work that we did, I feel emotions coming up even thinking about it, because that first session, I mean, it unlocked. I knew, I said ahead of time, my intention is, I'm using the word fall apart. It, of course, was not falling apart. I wanted to be safe enough to be able to let go of the obstacles that I've been holding on to so tightly, and I haven't felt like anyone really could hold space or be strong enough for me to let them go. And they went away on the very first session we did. And that allowed me to really clean out on the second session that we did, residue of that survival and those lower chakras, and then moving into the heart and moving into playfulness and moving into me. I really felt layers of thick debris coming loose. And I was so grateful that, the first sessions were wonderful and beautiful and challenging and not challenging. And they really paved the way. As much as I would have liked to say, oh, I was more blissful and flowy and feminine from the beginning, that's just not where I was. And to be able to slowly move into that, it was incredible. And, I guess it's been a few weeks, 3 weeks or so. And the changes that have happened already, well, I have also come in contact with other books about femininity that just popped up instantly after. And so it's all connecting the dots, which means I'm coming from the feminine, and intuition is popping up, and I'm following it, and it's naturally happening on its own after doing it. And I feel pieces of this new purpose, this new path I'm on, beginning to unfold already. So I guess that's what I would share. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing it. So thank you so much for your incredible feedback. I enjoyed absolutely working with you. That's really beautiful and deep work. What I would like to ask is what was different from what you experienced before? What was like specifically that was standing out for you? Was like, wow, that's something very unusual and new. Like, how we all caught up in like talking, blah, 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 discussing. And I know personal development work is a lot about mindset and like, positive self-talk and, but it's all like the verbal kind of like interpretation of our experience. So what I would like to ask, what was really standing out for you, and what was beyond verbal experience, like experiential part
Wow.
of this work?
Well, it's experiential, like first and foremost. And that's what was so amazing, is even as a breathwork practitioner, allowing myself to have more movement. The vocals while breathing, the movement while breathing unlocked density in parts of my body that I never really allowed myself to go there. And then even the movement, even in the ways where you guided the movement, I felt myself unlocking. I felt intuitively you knew which chakras or which areas were holding tension or energy that could be released. And no other modalities, even with the type of breath work that I've done in the past, it's really been more, you're in your inner space. You're not really being so expressive. And there was one particular moment in my second session where I felt, call it the Kundalini, or I don't know exactly what it's called. It was the first time I have ever really experienced it, but I felt like this goddess energy was going up my spine, but more than up my spine, through my whole body. I felt this gold flowing goddess energy that I felt like it was a divine mother, accepting that it's me as well. I've never had that experience before. And I didn't realize that I would be able to get that deep with breath work, combined, of course, with the different techniques that you're doing. It's completely different than any of the other type of development that I've done.
Beautiful, wonderful. And another question about this particular piece is, I remember when you came, you was like, I don't know what to expect. I'm a bit nervous, like the body work, the tantra sounds a little edgy. So what made you feel safe? Or what was the moment when you felt like, oh, I can trust Lana, like I can trust this body work, I can relax?
So from the very beginning, when I got your email and it was talking about the different boundaries, and it said, there's not going to be any genital type stimulation. And my first thought when I read it, I was like, well, that's good. And then I was like, wow. So, I mean, if it's not that, what else is it? And so I was like, okay, I'm going into this unknown, which boundaries was another thing, boundaries and containers that we talked about all weekend long, which was amazing. So still I was a little bit on the unknown of what are we doing here? What are we not doing here? And for me, I can be shy. I definitely have sexual energy, and at the same time, I am shy. And so I wasn't exactly sure. And what was so beautiful for me was that you started with boundaries when we were there in person. And then hearing the breath that you've included into it, instantly I felt more at home. And then as you shared that you were going to, basically just be moving or pressure in different areas, I felt safe. Where I was a little concerned before of like, is it going to go into, because we're releasing, sexual energy as well. Are we engaging with each other? And it was really nice to see that that's not what it was. In fact, I didn't realize, I thought, I've been so interested in Tantra for years. It's been calling me, and I didn't really understand what it was. And so you expressing this white Tantra, these boundaries, and this way to have movement and sound and breath and holding space was so much more beautiful than I realized it was. Did that answer the question? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to emphasize the safety piece here, because for some people it might feel like, because tantra it's such as like mysterious word, and many times people just associate it with like sexual experience, but to go deeper into connection with our own sexuality, we do need to unlock these places that been under taboo or hidden or like not accepted within ourselves, and feel safe with another human being in the place where it's like you can just relax and be and know the boundaries, right? So like know that nobody will violate, because many times I've heard other people's stories when they go to the different tantra teachers and they they trust them, and there were some, without even them being aware in the moment, the boundary is violated and they can't just play it back. So that was my question about, and yeah, I think you answered it beautifully.
Well, and with you mentioning that, that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm so grateful that I found you and did this with you is, and part of that whole, I'm being called, I want to get into this. And at the same time, there is a lot out there, and I don't really know. And I don't know where the boundaries are or where they're not, or what's supposed to be happening or what's not supposed to be happening. And I feel like for me, there's no better way than the way that I've come into it that I could have done.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So another question I have for you is, what kind of like personal insights or realizations did you have after after this retreat? Something maybe about, how relationship work, or your own boundaries, or your own desires, or your own body, your own self-expression, feminine power, anything in that area that you're willing to share with us.
Yeah. You know, all encompassing, amazing experience. What I got was so big for me, and it's actually around boundaries. It was the containers. It was the ability for me to, okay, so I've um, I've been like leaking my sexual energy for my entire life, and really having no idea, knowing it's there, knowing I'm doing it, not knowing how or why or how to stop it. And even by you expressing container, your boundaries, I realized myself as this aura, as this energy, as this orb. And I realized, oh, I can be sexual, I can be feminine, and I can hold it in my space, and others can see it or mirror it or whatever their experience is. And I can stand here whole and complete. And I never really understood that until we did this. I was more like my energy was like beaming out, and then it was like pulling energy towards me, and that was causing, all kinds of positive and negative things to happen. And even though I'm saying it intellectually, it kind of subconsciously, even though we talked about it through the work we did, is what started pulling it all back to me instead, which has been a challenge over my entire life. It's something that I haven't really known if I would ever be able to let that go or not.
Yeah, this is huge. Well, you mentioned containers, so maybe I would like to hear a little bit more about like containers for our relationship, for our energies, to be able to feel free, spacious, authentic, powerful, and at the same time not to attract any negativity. Because when we grow, when we release the conditioning, cultural, social conditioning, we also like face certain judgment from outside. People don't understand. People get confused what it is, and they start to project whatever they believe, their beliefs basically, on us, and that can create certain disagreements, misunderstandings, the situations, like the sticky situations. If you can mention a little bit more about what does it mean to you, for you to discover the right containers for your relationships, for your energy to show up?
Yeah. So, I mean, before talking to you, I didn't even know about these at all. So first and foremost, it's totally changed my whole world. Um, and it's only been 3 weeks, so I can tell you what I've noticed so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at containers with my relationships. I started looking at myself as a container, like I said, like this energy, this orb, this me, and that me can interact with these other people, other energies, other containers. And basically, it's like subconscious commitments or contracts with myself or that other person, with whatever the boundary is. And it's shifted my energy to where I feel more solid in myself. An experience that I've had with it, with what you mentioned, well, now I'm changing, I'm shifting, I'm having boundaries, but what about everyone around me? I really cared about what other people think, or hurting other people's feelings, letting myself stay in uncomfortable places because, I'm strong enough to be able to handle it, and all these sensitive, issues or people around. And what's happened again energetically from the work that was done is that, so I would either stay in places that were not best for me because I was putting other people's needs before my own, or I was attacking, uh, protecting myself out of anger and not going to be taken advantage of. And either way, it was like crazy. And what I've noticed with the energetic shift that's happened is that I'm just not pulled. It's not that I don't care how they feel anymore. It's just like, I got to do what I've got to do for me. And I love you and I can accept you in my life in these different ways, or I can't. And it's just not there anymore. And where I felt pulled and drawn in every single time because I had a hard time breaking off relationships because I feel bad and they're back. And so I'm just kind of sucking back into it. All of a sudden, it's like that energy is gone. And I feel like, no, I'm okay. And so I guess to answer your question, long-winded, is when the containers are put in place and the energetic work that you're doing clears it out, then all of a sudden I just come from a more whole and complete place. I'm radiating more of that energy, and the people that fall off are going to fall off, and it's not going to be as emotionally difficult, is what I'm experiencing so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it changes everything, right? So we'll just stand strong in our truth while being compassionate still and open to connect, but on our own terms, right? Within our own standards. We don't need to lower standards for other people, even if they say they heard that. Well, the last question I want to ask you is, what would you say to women who are still like on the fence, or they have that resistance? And like you said, there were many obstacles in your external life that could prevent you coming to California and doing this retreat. And they might be connected with some internal, fears, or like something, oh my God, I have never done anything like this before. Finding some, sometimes we kind of make up different excuses as well why we can't do it, and there are external circumstances kind of mirroring our internal resistance. So what would you recommend to women who are like really drawn to this work, really interested, maybe connected to my work already and want to do this, but they're still like not sure, or they have had time to make a decision?
I would say that anything holding you back is internal pieces that are afraid or comfortable inside, attempting to keep you stagnant. And to have the courage to push past those obstacles, because you're going to learn more about yourself when you do. And I mean, how long do you want to wait to be able to let go of those things that aren't serving you? I mean, that's really it. Oh, well, I'll wait another 6 months, or I'll wait another year. They can go in a weekend. They can go in a day. Those things that have been there for your whole life that you don't really know if they'll ever go away could go away in a weekend if you would only take the chance to push past the discomfort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Amber. It was a pleasure and honor to talk to you. And of course, working with you also is a beautiful experience. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.